Modern Islamic leaders claim over and over again that the Quran was standardized and has been perfectly preserved down through the ages. But this claim cannot stand up to modern historical critical analysis. Join us this episode to learn more. Dr. J, I think we've done this before in other series. Today, I think it's applicable and it's relevant really to the topic we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, what do Islamic leaders say about the claim that Quran is preserved, for instance?
Okay, you saw what we've said about the different manuscripts and how there was not much of a preservation. There are multiple different manuscripts that start to appear in the 7th century. So you would think that the modern scholars or the modern leaders of Islam would be aware of this. So let's look and see what they say. And let's just look at, I've got a few of them up here. Let's put it on the screen. Let's start with this first guy. His name is Fethullah Gulen from Turkey. And he says, the Quran's text is entirely reliable. It has not been altered, edited, or tampered with since it was revealed. All Muslims know only one Quran, perfectly preserved in its original words since the Prophet's death, when revelation ended. So here's this Turkish cult leader, he actually lives right here in Pennsylvania, who says one Quran, unaltered, unedited, and untampered. Okay, what do others say? Well, here is a convert to Islam, Suzanne Hanif. She says the Holy Quran is the only divinely revealed scripture in the history of mankind which has been preserved to the present time in its exact original form. Preserved today in its exact original form. She has this in her book, Islam and Muslim. Okay, well, she's a convert. Maybe she doesn't know much. But you cannot say that about this guy. This guy is not a convert. Abdullah Yusuf Ali, he is the one that actually translated it into English. He's the one that we use. He is the standard word.
His translation is very famous.
Absolutely, in the 1930s. And what did he say? So well has it been preserved, that's the Quran, both in memory and in writing, that the Arabic text we have today is identical to the text as it was revealed to the Prophet. Not even a single letter has yielded to corruption during the passage of century. So not a single letter. Not a single letter. That means every dot and every vowel, not one letter has been changed. That's Yusuf Abdullah Yusuf Ali. We have here Malvi Muhammad Ali, who comes out of the Ahmadiyya movement that became very popular in Pakistan. And he says, the Quran is one, and no copy differing in even a diacritical point, that's the dots, above and below, the 5 dots we're talking about, is met with. There are, and always have been, contending sects, but the same Qur'an is the possession of one and all. A manuscript with the slightest variation in the text is unknown. So not even a diacritical mark has been changed. You can see already that that has red flags. What about our good friend, Dr. Shabi? I debated this guy 6 times. We're good friends. We know each other. I've been working with him since 1998, I think it is. And what does he say? We have a copy of the Quran dating from 790 in the British Museum. Interestingly, he says 790. That's the Quran, the MS 2165. Folks, that's 1,300 years. Look at the date. 1,300 years ago, and we compare that with what we are reading today, and we find them to be exactly identical. He then continues on, and he makes this statement more recently. He said, what is important to notice is that throughout the ages of Muslim history, the Muslims have not quarreled over what is the text of the Quran, because the text was known through memory work and through the written materials handed down right from the time of the Prophet Muhammad. I won't say what he says after that. As I said, the 2 copies that were made 1,400 years. Now he's going back even 100 years earlier.
Right.
One which is in Tashkent, Russia. Tashkent is not in Russia, so he made another second mistake. That's in Uzbekistan, not in Russia. For example, has been demonstrated by Ahmed van Denver in his book Ulam al-Qur'an to be an early copy from that time, and we find no difference from that copy to what we're reading today.
How did they open this? Because it's encased and no one is allowed to touch it. So how did he determine that?
The Samarkand?
Yeah.
Actually, you can open it. It came to London. They had it on display.
Oh, so when they brought it over.
Oh, yeah.
But when
it's
you
been
go
around.
there, they will refuse to let
Listen,
you touch
listen.
it. Yeah.
Alta Kulic has looked at it. He's gone through it from 2005 up until 2007.
Those scholars were allowed.
Alta Kulic has gone right through it, and look what he says about the Quran. We're going to get to that later on in another episode. So that's Dr. Shabi Ali. I want to end with Dr. Yasad Khadi, our good friend from 2020.
Holding the narrative.
Uthman standardized the copies of the Quran, and from his time up until our time, there hasn't been 2 copies of the Quran that are different, even 1 letter or 1 word. The Quran is the most protected of all scriptures, and God has protected his Quran from any kind of alteration, deviation, miswriting, because he says he is going to protect it. All Qurans, even up to our time, conform, here it is, ready? Letter for letter, word for word, with the Uthmanic Musaf. Musaf means manuscript. To this day, there is no different version of the Quran. There is but one Quran. Not a word, not a letter has changed. That's our influential American. Now, hold on a minute. I just want to say, why do they make these claims? Well, they have to, because the Quran makes these claims.
I was going to say, these are very smart people.
Here, what's the Quran say? The Quran is very clear. In chapter 85, verse 21 to 22. This is the glorious Quran inscribed in the preserved tablets. That's the uncreated Quran, and that's where that claim comes. It is internal to the Quran. You have chapter 10, verse 15. Bring us a Quran other than this or change it. Say, it is not for me to change it on my own accord. No human can change it, because therefore it takes away its preservation. It takes away its eternality. It takes away its inimitability. In chapter 18, verse 27, and recite what has been revealed to you of the book of your Lord. None can change his words. No one, you, me, nobody can change his word. And finally, chapter 15, verse 9, verily we, and that's referring to God in the plural tense. It is we, there's God in the plural tense again, who have sent down the Quran, and surely we will guard it.
Yeah, this is one of the most famous passages that are used. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الْقُرْآنَ وَإِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. And this is the one that the claim is that the dhikr here is reference to Quran, when in fact it's used of the Torah, technically speaking, in the Quran itself.
So let's conclude this episode right here. What do they all agree upon? That the Quran we have today has not changed one iota. One of them said since its inception 1,400 years ago. Shabi Ali did say 13, he then corrected himself. That the Quran we have today is exactly the same as that which is on the preserved tablets in heaven. That's in chapter 85, verse 21 and 22. Every word, even every letter is the same. That's Yasad Khadi that made that claim. That our Quran parallels in every detail that which was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad and was written down completely by Uthman in 652. But is that the earliest what Muslim scholars believe? Let's look and see what they said according to the Quran. This is the claim that the scholars today make. Next episode, let's see what the earliest Muslim scholars said and see if there's a disconnect. You'll be surprised by what you find.
Absolutely, and I know where we're going with this, but let me go back again, like in the next minute or so before we wrap this up. I know these scholars, like I said, very smart scholars, very intelligent people. I get it that the Quran is saying this about itself, but they at least had the opportunity to investigate and inspect and compare and contrast. Why make such big statements knowing that others are going to poke hole in it?
Because of the Quran itself. They have nowhere to go. They have to say that, Al-Fadi. They have no other choice. The Quran makes those claims. Therefore, they've got to support those claims. They just hope we're not investigating it. They just hope that Hatun Tash, that 5'2", does not find any other Quran. They were really hoping that she would never find those 26 Qurans when she did. You can see this has just blown all of these claims open for these modern scholars since 2016. That's a whole other story. We're not getting into that in these episodes. You know what? We've gone through those episodes, you and I, many times. But they didn't think that Dan Brubaker would actually start looking at changes and looking at manuscript variants in the canonical text. So you can see, I'm saying consonantal texts. Mm-hmm. So you can see they just didn't realize that we'd be investigating these claims. They didn't think they needed to because no one had dared to ask them. Getting back to what Shoemaker's saying, no one had ever asked these questions because no one could ask these questions because our good friend Smith wouldn't let us ask these questions because we had to make sure everything we said had to pass by their grid. And their grid is what you just saw. That's their grid. That's what you saw. No one's ever criticized what those claims. Well, we're going to go back and see what the original manuscript, the original authorities, the original scholars said about their Quran.
And you'll be surprised, I don't want to jump ahead of the game, but you'll be surprised that there is a vast difference between what early Quranic scholars, or at least early Muslim scholars, would behave or say about the Quran as opposed to our modern contemporary Islamic scholars. Thank you, Dr. J, as always. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and hope you've been enjoying this series. We encourage you, as always, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, CIRA International, and also join our Patreon team. Until next episode, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, CIRA International, and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.